So let's just take a moment, having kind of sung ourselves prayerfully into that place, and either allow your eyes to softly close or your gaze to drift downward gently, unfocused. Trust the seat to support your body. Trust that breath to flow in and through you all by itself without you having to work. Just feel that divine flow of breath and life moving in and through your body, through your being, right now, right here. Feel what it feels like in this moment. And feel what that next breath and that next moment feels like right where you are. Nothing you need to do, nothing you need to make happen. Because the truth is, each one of us is exactly where we need to be in this very moment. Each one of us is exactly what we need to be in this very moment. And because of what we are, each one of us is deeply connected to that spiritual source, that divine presence, God, Spirit, however you want to refer to it. Deeply connected, not because of anything you're doing, but because you're a part of it already. That loving divine presence that loves you deeply and completely, that is present to guide you and bless you and support you. To heal you and help you let go of the things that it's time for you to let go of. You don't even have to do the letting go. You just have to let the God do it. And so I invite you now, as we sit together, just to take a few moments to let go into the quiet, into the stillness, and be present with that presence that is with you always. Continuing to be present with that presence with you. Notice the shift that takes place when we let go. Maybe let go just a little more. Let ourselves drop a little more into that presence, into that divine essence that is us, individually and collectively. Anchor that awareness in your being right now. Feel it. And know that in any moment you need, you can return to this place, because this place is in you, always. Spirit am I, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, free to forgive, free to save the world by being what we are. And as we hold this awareness for ourselves, I invite us just to take a moment to notice if maybe there's any people or names or prayers arising within us. And if there are, to share those either silently or softly right now. And as we allow those names and prayers to continue, we give thanks for the awareness, for the feeling that that presence and that spirit is with us, with those we pray with, and with every part of creation. And as I like to close my prayers, as my old Unity minister used to, we close the prayer by simply saying, "Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God." And so it is. Amen. All right. And at this point, I'll invite you to just kind of gently come back and, let things settle in. As a Unity minister who loves to talk too much, I continue to make notes and use the little notes because they keep me moving forward, and they let you get out of here before 2 o'clock. Otherwise, there is so much to share. It's good to get to know yourself, and kind of like what you need to function. So, yes, Heather, thank you for spilling the beans that, yes, indeed, I was asked by Brigid to do a Zoom talk while she was out of town, and I thought, well, I could also do the Zoom fellowship afterwards. That would be nice, right, Zoomers? And so that sounded like a divine idea, and then I started thinking about it more, and I thought about all these people I love up here, and I thought about the fact that, it is a little warmer in North Carolina than here, although you guys are doing a pretty good job. Well, ministers are known for bringing hot air, so, I mean, you can't really, what can I say? So, yeah, turn down the air conditioning. Jim's talking, right. Perfect. You see, with age comes wisdom. Sorry. Anyway, it seemed like a delightful opportunity to see you and get to be with you guys up here. And for me, and I'll say this again for our friends out there on the internet, it's such a lovely experience to be here in the presence with the community. And I want to talk a little bit about community today. That's my talking. The value of spiritual community and being part of one and being actively part of one. Extremely important. It's helpful as we're learning these spiritual principles to work together in community to practice them and to share what we've learned and to share our insights and our being and to do that. And I also want to talk a little bit about tithing and giving because, that's actually how places like this continue to function. One of the things I used to say when I was the minister here was this church does not have a benefactor. Occasionally there's a church that has, some well-endowed person that just keeps paying the bills, and it all magically happens. Well, I have good news for you and bad news, okay? The bad news is we don't have that here. The good news is we don't have that here because it allows everyone here to be the church, and that really is the whole point. Everybody here collectively is the church, and collectively including those of us who come in online, that makes this happen. And it allows it to be a much richer experience. I've been to churches that were, endowed. The experience was a little different. So anyway, I'm just going to share some stories today, a little bit of my story, and I'm going to talk about how God nudges us. Because, when Unity got started way back when in the 1800s, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, I'm thinking about them, as I read about them, they came out of like really simple, really humble backgrounds, and nobody in their family was endowing anybody with anything. They were working. Charles eventually figured out that he had a talent for buying and selling little bits of real estate. He was no real estate magnate, but anyway. But it was enough to take care of his family and to give them the resources they needed to get the Unity movement started. And Myrtle learned, that found her gift of healing. She was quite a healer, quite a talented healer. And so that grew as they followed the things they were studying and practicing, and here we are. Here we are, For them, though, so prosperity for them was simple things like, we've got a warm, safe place to live. We've got food on the table, and we've got clothes for the family. And if you think about it, for your grandparents or your great-grandparents, that was prosperity, right? Fillmore's realized that if you're really paying attention to what God was doing, there would be enough left over to do those little divine things you were getting nudged towards also. And that's what I think each of us can look at, regardless of our situation. Back in the 80s, I met my beautiful wife, Kay, and when we met, we were both interested in spiritual studies. I'll use the word interested. But as you're interested, the universe shows you things, right? The first thing it did was it sent us a little New Agey church. A lady in Charlotte, North Carolina had this little vision experience up in the mountains and had been led to start a church. And we eventually found that church, and we're there twice a week, every week, for 5 years. It's where we learned to meditate, where we learned some of the basic teachings, and it's also where we were as we were focusing more when A Course in Miracles found us. And that's what had happened. It found us. And so we continued on with that, and around the same time, but toward the end of that time, we also found Unity, which was a lot more grounded and centered than the little New Age church we had been attending, although that church was perfect for us at the time. Interesting to notice. Notice what's perfect for you at the time. It's there. So anyway, fast forward a few more years. By 1992, we had actually made it through A Course in Miracles. We'd found Unity. And 92 sticks out in my mind because that was the year my dad's mother, my grandmother in California, passed away. And when she passed away, she left me a tiny bit of money in her will. It really wasn't very much. But just by chance, Kay had a client who was an investment broker and helped us make our first investment ever. And so we invested the little bit of money, and that was great. Fast forward 5 more years. I'm very involved with Unity at that point. I'm involved in my local community, and we're doing retreats, and we're doing programs. We're participating. We're not leading them. We're looking for whatever we can to grow us and take us a little deeper spiritually. And we went to a meditation retreat. Actually, there was one at our Unity church, and then the same teacher was going to be at another church about 3 or 4 hours away the next Sunday, so we hopped in the car and headed up there. And as some of you know, that's where I had an experience, quite a profound experience, that ended with the awareness that it was time for me to quit my job and start my ministry. I had no clue what that meant or what that would entail, but when you get nudges, you notice if they feel right, if they feel real. And you can tell that. So I decided to apply to Unity Seminary. Well, I decided I wanted to apply, and then I found out you had to take 24 or 26 Unity classes to even be able to apply. So for the next year and a half, every time we could get time off, Kay and I drove to Unity Village in Kansas and took classes there and went through the program. She went through the same program with me. And you can drive to Unity Village in a day if you really drive. But it was wonderful. It was not what I expected, but it was a wonderful experience. And as I followed and as I did what was there, things showed up, right? So eventually I was able to apply to the seminary and get accepted. And that was, that was great. And by that time, and this is the cool thing, the money my grandmother had given me, which our investment friend had invested in stocks, was growing, and I had enough money to go to seminary. I had enough money for seminary. Isn't that nice? The universe gives you an idea, and it provides exactly what you need. And none of it was my planning. I mean, this wasn't my idea. So I encourage you to notice what shows up for you and to trust that the things show up, you'll be provided for. So it's 1999. I'm getting ready to head off to seminary. I've got money. The stock market is booming. And then, shortly after I got to Kansas City and started in school, this thing called the tech bubble popped. And all that money, it was a smaller amount of money. A lot of my friends had exactly the same experience. It was, it was one of those things where, oh, okay, all right, here we are. We're in Kansas City now. We've left our jobs. We had this money, but it's a lot less money now. And so, we're all there. Now, I mention that particularly today because I don't know if any of you guys watch the stock markets or the economy right now, but it's interesting, especially for those of us who are on a fixed income, right? My question, though, would be, if you think you're on a fixed income, consider this: who fixes your income? Are you fixing it, or is something bigger than you fixing it? That's what I'd invite you to consider. Are you fixing your income, or is something bigger than you fixing it? At this point, I forgot to grab them. I was going to grab a couple books. But anyway, two books I'll mention. I'll mention them a couple times. Eric Butterworth put out a book many years back called Spiritual Economics. Some of you are old enough to remember this. How many remember long lines for gas in the 70s, waiting to get gas? There you go. That was a little economic crash that happened in the 70s, right? That's when Eric wrote the book, Spiritual Economics. That's when Eric wrote the book. All right. And then a more contemporary, a little reasonably more contemporary, Reverend Jim Rosemurgy wrote a beautiful book that I really like called Even Mystics Have Bills to Pay. Another one of my favorite, quote-unquote, prosperity books. Prosperity, remember, it's not about money. It's about having all you need to do what's yours to do and to share and keep things going. So anyway, a couple books. And Unity has always taught from the very beginning that if you pay attention to what God is doing, pay attention to what the universe is doing, pay attention to where it's nudging you, it'll take care of the details. But you got to move. You can't wait to have it all done. You got to move. So, about the same time the universe was nudging me to quit my job and start my ministry, that same extraordinarily intelligent universe was nudging my beautiful wife, Kay, to shift careers and go back to teaching movement. Kay had for a long time been a ballet teacher and ballerina, and had ballet schools, but she had shifted careers at one point when she moved, and it was nudging her to go back. And it did a good job. It did a very good job. She ended up at that point moving into Pilates training. She started taking Pilates classes. One time we were in Kansas City, and we actually had to fly her out of Kansas City to go out to California and take a couple classes. And she finished a second major certification 2 weeks before we loaded up the truck to drive to Unity Village. Okay? So, can you hear something coming, maybe? Can you hear something coming? Yeah. So, we get to Kansas City. Kay's Pilates business takes off like a skyrocket. She's teaching out of our little apartment. She has one bedroom set up as a studio. Shortly after, teaching at several other health clubs around town. Shortly thereafter, a beautiful swim and tennis club downtown sets up a studio for her. That was wonderful. And not only did they set up a studio for her, but by then she has connections with Kansas City Ballet. So she gets to be the ballet the Pilates trainer for a number of members of the Kansas City Ballet Company, which was like, oh, do I have to work? Yeah. She loved it. It was just absolutely a delight for her. And so it took off. Her business took off. And so, between her Pilates business, the money I had left from our investments, which was actually about the same, the little bit of money that my grandmother had given me, and my opportunity to work in the Silent Unity Prayer Ministry, which actually that shifted once we got there. When I first got there, you had to work full-time, and that didn't work with the school schedule. Shortly after I got there, they shifted it so we could work part-time. We had plenty of money. Paid for school, paid for everything, allowed us to take vacations. And you guys know, some of you know, we like vacations. We are firmly in favor of vacations as well as retreats and such. So maybe by sharing these stories, I want to point out to you, it is not only an intelligent universe that knows what it's doing, it's friendly, and it takes care of us. If we pay attention, if we follow the nudges. What I've come to realize is that the universe always has plans for us. It has a lot higher sense of our untapped potential than we do. The universe knows that we are capable, God knows that we are capable of a lot more than what we're doing. And it's constantly nudging us in ways that we can discover that and share that with others. Just how it works. That's just how it works. And that's a key point for today. We tend to settle into our comfort zones and things are okay here. I'm doing fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And that's good. You get a little break. You can take a little break every now and then, but it always has more to do. So one of the things I've learned to do is stay attentive. What would it have me do now? What would it show me now? Knowing it's going to take care of everything, Take a trip to Albany? Yeah, no problem, right? No problem. Our Buddhist friends say that of the three gems, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, one of the most important ones is what they call Sangha, this community of practice, community of spiritual practice, where we come together to share what we've learned and to help each other practice it together and take it a little more deeply. And every time we take it a little more deeply, the universe responds a little more to us. I mention that today because whether you're sitting here in the sanctuary or whether you're watching this on YouTube, something in the universe has nudged you to show up here, digitally or in person. Just think about that. Why the heck why are you here? Yeah, why are you guys here? Because something says, go there. Something says, go there. Something says, show up. Something says, turn on the TV. Look at this. It is not just random chance. We're constantly being nudged. And we're being nudged in ways that help us grow and expand more. I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh that told the little story or gave the example. People talk about spiritual awakening or enlightenment, and they're expecting, like bells and whistles and something magical to happen. And I think he's the one that said, awakening or enlightenment isn't about that. He said it's more like discovering this beautiful, valuable gem that's been sitting in the bottom of your own pocket all along. Oh, look what's there. I never would have thought. That's what he says it's like, and I think he's right. It's just very natural. It's very natural. Well, during my studies at Unity, I got a lot of reminders about tithing. Tithing. Everyone loves that topic. By the way, God does not keep a set of account books, okay? She doesn't work that way at all. She doesn't work that way at all. In fact, but anyway, it's not about account books at all. But the Fillmores taught and believed and showed us that tithing or committed giving can be a tool for spiritual growth, for deepening our connection, because it's a way of committing to those people and those places where we feel God hitting us in the heart, speaking to us deep within, deep within. And the two books I mentioned earlier, Eric Butterworth's Spiritual Economics and Jim Rosemergy's Even Mystics Have Bills to Pay, really good books, not about how to get God to give you more money. You know, kiss that one goodbye. Just let that thought go. You will have everything you need if you're following the direction you need to follow. They're books about how to use tithing and committed giving as a tool to deepen that connection. You know, as I say, God does not need your money. God does not need your money. God doesn't even own a purse. Although I have heard she has some pretty nice shoes. Just saying. No, giving, it's about sharing a commitment to developing and keeping open the channels through which we feel and experience God working in our lives. It's about keeping those doors unlocked, keeping the lights on, and keeping things happen. It's about what I call, and this is what I gave for the title for the talk, partnering with God. Us partnering with God to be channels and to keep open the channels through which we learn and through which others can learn. Our very first Unity minister, who is a great guy named Randolph Wilkinson, Randolph used to joke about tithing. He says, yeah, I tithe out of enlightened self-interest. I tithe out of enlightened self-interest. Because he knew that as we worked to keep open the channels for God and whatever, and committed to do that, then the universe responded. The universe responded in all kinds of ways. You know, things improved in our lives, our relationships, our work, various things, and all the resources that we need to do what we need to do. So that's why there's actually three parts of being part of a community, right? There's the showing up, right? There's the showing up for the community and the activities and programs. There's the helping out. Yes, Heather, thank you for saying that about, you know, fellowship outside when you can actually be with people is wonderful. And thank you guys in advance for helping out to keep that happening. And there is the tithing and giving, because all of that works together. And as we do it, what happens is, and what I've found, and what Kay has found, is that you begin to get this sense that you don't need to worry about the details. Somebody's got that well taken care of. I have a friend sitting out there that knows that very well, has told me a couple times about that, you know. He doesn't have to worry about his life. He knows he's taken care of and his family are. And so there's that awareness, you know, even when the little voice says, oh, your investment levels are down. No problem, you know, just pay attention, pay attention. So that's what I call partnering with God. Partnering with God, not trying to get God to support me and my clever ideas. Please get that clear. You know, I have lots of clever ideas. I love ideas. And they float through my mind all the time. But I'm not trying to convince God to help me make my ideas happen. I'm trying to partner with God to notice the divine ideas, the nudges, the things that are open to me, and then help those continue on for me and for others. Because the more I share, the more that comes through. The more I share, the more that comes through. So, I do tithing, I do giving, whatever. Oh, by the way, I was going to mention Jim Rosemergy, for those of you that hear the word tithing and go, ugh, right? When I heard Unity talking about tithing, I was really skeptical for a long time. I actually didn't start tithing till the late 90s, okay? And then even with a little trepidation. But Jim Rosemergy has an interesting suggestion in his book, Even Mystics Have Bills to Pay. He says, commit to what you're going to do. Commit to some level of doing. And notice what level you've committed at. Is it 1%? Is it 2%? And then commit to slowly bump that up and see what happens. He found some pretty interesting things happening in his life. I mean, talk about a man who likes vacations and all and who works as a minister, which usually doesn't involve a lot of time for things like that. it really opens up as we begin doing that. So, anyway, well, let me just hop forward a little bit. I need to stop talking. I love talking. I love you guys. Back in 2002, I was getting ready to graduate from Unity Seminary. I was living in Kansas City, and of course, I'm going, okay, God, anywhere you want. You guys have heard me say this before. Anywhere you want, just nowhere north of Kansas City, right? Because Kansas City is cold in the winter. And when you've been living in North Carolina and you hit a Kansas City winter, that's cold. Yeah, nowhere north of Kansas City. Any of you guys looked at a map? And here's an important point. It was only when I could get myself to let go of that idea and to notice the nudges I was getting, to look at this congregation up here, just a tad north of Kansas City, did I get to come up here and spend 12 wonderful years with a community that is just warm and wonderful, and where I grew and we grew, and it was a God job. It had nothing to do with Jim's best plans. I mean, the week we moved up here, you had just had one big snowstorm and had another one immediately following it, right? The salary that the church felt it could offer when I was first starting was the bare minimum Unity would allow, right? And yet, something felt right. Something felt right. And so, needless to say, I showed up, right? When something feels right, you show up. I showed up, and the universe did its thing. And the universe did its thing. And it has been, yeah, I know. I love you guys too. It has been the most wonderful part of, a wonderful part of our life, and a wonderful growing part, and continues to be. And continues to be. So, the universe showed up like that for me. I presume that same universe has something like that in mind for Reverend Brigid. What do you guys think? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Big gifts for her. And now, I believe that same universe has similar things in mind for everybody here today and everybody watching today. That same universe has similar things in mind as we each pay attention and step forward. I chose to share some of my story and the things that happened for me because I want you to think about the synchronicities and the nudges that have shown up in your life. You know, the ones in the past, where have you had nudges and things? Where did you pay attention to them and follow them? Where did you decide, nah, not this time? And it's like, oh. But you know, the universe always has the next one. You can, it never says, sorry, that was it. You know, it's out to wake us up. It's out to have us understand that at greater and greater depth. That's its whole point. It's not to make us rich and important. It's to help us find out who and what we are. I also want to, of course, encourage you guys to partner with God. Out of enlightened self-interest, to partner with God in supporting this church community, either online or, you know, or directly here. It's where the universe has drawn you. It is where it has nudged you. Notice that. You could be a million other places today. You're here. You're watching this. You could be anywhere else. You're here. Notice that. And then work to keep this channel open. Commit to keep this channel open. So it's open for you, right? I mean, I'm doing this for me. And it's also open for others who, just like you, when you first found this, were looking for something. That's the partnering with God that I'm encouraging people to do today. So I'm going to ask for the affirmation slide. I think we've got one popping up here because I like to do an affirmation. Yeah, there you go. It's a little long, but it'll work. It says, I am choosing to partner with God to accept and share all that God would offer to me and through me this day. Say that with me, please. I am choosing to partner with God to accept and share all that God would offer to me and through me today. And say that again one more time. I am choosing to partner with God, to accept and share all that God would offer to me and through me this day. Close your eyes and let that settle in a little bit. Probably the easiest thing in the world to do is to partner with God. It doesn't require a lot of thinking and planning on our part. It just requires paying attention. We choose to partner with God. We choose to accept and to share all the things that God would nudge us toward. We can feel those nudges inside. What's God nudging you toward this week? What's God nudging you toward this month? What direction? What way? Notice that. Follow that. It doesn't show up until you follow it. Partner with God. Accept and share whatever God, whatever the universe would share with you this day, this week, this lifetime. Thank you, God. Amen.